What up, y'all? It's your guy Dawson from Dawson Speak TV and D&D TV. Thank you for rating, commenting, subscribing, and sharing the videos on this channel. Much love to those who support this channel by donating. I appreciate it. All that information is in the description box underneath the video. Also, make sure you hit the notification bell so you get notifications when I drop a new video. Now let's get into this topic. Alright, thanks for clicking on the video. Now, this video is for educational purposes, and as I approach this topic with respect, I want you all to please be respectful in my comment section. Thanks. Now, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind for quite some time. It's really been bothering me, and I thank God that I have a platform that I can talk about stuff, get it off my chest. And I want to deal with the black church. Not that it doesn't happen in other churches, it's just because I'm black and I want to talk to my people. So everyone else, please stand back and stand down. We got this. The black church is the long-standing institutional backbone of the African American community. The black church has been the locus of hope, spiritual guidance, and social support for many African Americans. However, when it comes to cases of abuse, whether that abuse is mental, physical, spiritual, sexual, or financial in the church, some leaders in the church, some, not all, have always found a way to protect and cover up the predator and leave the victims to fend for themselves. The victims not only have to deal with the pressure of being victimized, but also the added weight of the congregation and other leaders that support the predators who at times pressure the victims to remain quiet, walk away, and live in obscurity. Now, I'm sure many of my subscribers and listeners, many of you have your own stories about abuse of power that has taken place in religious institutions. However, when we have opened our mouth to talk about specific situations and people, I'm sure many of you have heard what I have heard from some, not all religious zealots, who have said whenever we wanted to talk about these cases of abuse, "Oh, brother Dawson, touch not my anointed, do my prophets no harm. Let the Lord fix it. Jesus will work it out. It'll be all over in the morning." No, it won't. It won't. It'll be all over when we get the boldness to talk about injustice that takes place in religious institutions. The abuse of power that many congregants and leaders are afraid to address for fear of excommunication when it comes to the congregants, or demotion or financial contributions being withheld if leaders speak out on scandals in the church, has got to stop. How can the victims ever win when the leaders in the church and the predators are friends? Take a breath. Oh, I'm going to say it again. How can the victims ever win when the leaders in the church and the predators are friends? Now, anytime on my show when I've talked about topics and I've dealt with individuals who've been inappropriately touched, or essay we say here on YouTube, in religious institutions, and the victims were girls or young women, people can get on board with that and say, "Dawson, oh yeah, the predators, that man, that whoever, they need to be held accountable. It's a shame before God what they did to them girls or that woman." However, when I've gotten on this show and I've said that the victims that the predator had inappropriate interactions with were boys or young men, some of you said in the comments, "Oh, Dawson, I don't know about that. Them boys, they young men. They could have fought back. They could have said something. Maybe they wanted it. I don't know, Dawson. Maybe they got a little sugar in their tank." No, maybe you got some sugar in your damn brain. First of all, let me say this. No one, male or female, wants to go through a traumatic experience like that, where you have to live with what that person did to you for the rest of your life. Are you kidding me? And having that thought process when it comes to boys and young men, especially our black boys and young men, is a similar thought process that some individuals who work in the judicial system have when sentencing our boys as adults, because they don't see black boys as children, and in cases of our young men, they are given longer sentences than their white counterparts. Oh, y'all better let me work out my YouTube dissertation today. It's the same thought process, you all. This toxic thinking that black boys or young black men can't be victims of being inappropriately touched or of SA is truly asinine. And as of late, we can see that grown black men are saying that things happened to them, where they were put in situations where there was misconduct, abuse of power, inappropriate touching that has left them with trauma. And no amount of money that you give them is going to heal that trauma. So stop it. And I want to give a shout out to Terry Crews and Christian Keys for having the guts to speak out on things that the black community, I'm dealing with us today, that the black community often laughs about. I may do a video on that because I feel so much fire and man, look here, let me keep going on. And that brings me to these two men. Both had allegations of inappropriate interactions with young men, and we were told not to discuss it because it would make the black church look bad. Nonsense. When religious institutions cover up, reach out-of-court settlements, make excuses for, or rebuke congregants for having questions about abuse in the church, that institution's leaders make that institution look bad, not us. Rev James Cleveland was revered all around the world for making many, and I do mean many, classic gospel songs that are still being sung in and out of churches all around the world. Many call him the king of gospel music. Rev James Cleveland was the mentor to the Queen of Soul, the late great Aretha Franklin, the daughter of Rev C.L. Franklin. Rev James Cleveland loved her, and the Queen of Soul loved him, and so did millions of people around the world. However, after his untimely death in 1991, people began to speculate about Rev James Cleveland's life outside the church and how he died. A young man who lived with James Cleveland shocked the world when he came out with horrific allegations that many of James Cleveland's friends in the gospel music industry, churchgoers, and lovers of his music did not want to hear or accept. In February of 1992, Rev James Cleveland's then foster son, Christopher Harris, formerly known as Christopher Harris Cleveland, filed a lawsuit against Rev Cleveland's estate, claiming that Rev James Cleveland allegedly had inappropriate interactions with him, SA'd him over a period of 5 years, which started when he was 15 years old and infected him with what we call on YouTube here, House in Virginia virus, which Christopher claims that Rev James Cleveland contracted the virus through same-sex liaisons. Now, thanks to Jet Magazine, some of you all remember Jet Magazine, you're not that young, they actually did an article about the situation in March of 1992. Although Jet did face some criticism from James Cleveland's supporters, the article gave the public information on the King of Gospel that would have been kept secret had his adopted son, Christopher Harris, went to leaders in the church instead of outside sources. Now, the case was settled with undisclosed terms. You heard me right. James Cleveland Estate settled the case with his adopted son, Christopher Harris. And they had no choice but to do so. They knew that man wasn't lying. Now, around his church, many congregants knew that Rev James Cleveland was known to take in many homeless, fatherless children into his Windsor Hills home. After Christopher Harris received a settlement with James Cleveland's estate, everyone went about business as usual, and no one talked about it anymore in the black church or in the gospel music industry because they did not want to taint the king of gospel music's legacy. In other words, forget about the victim. To hell with him. James Cleveland's legacy is more important. And a side note, why is James Cleveland looking like this in this picture? He's giving us the look like, Dawson, y'all better not talk about me. Shh, where is your faith? Shh! Get out of here, James! Quit staring at us! Now, decades later, another shocking scandal of young men that were inappropriately touched or essayed by a powerful man of God rocked the black church, and that was the case of Bishop Eddie Long. Bishop Eddie Long was a husband, a father, a leader of a mega church, New Birth Baptist Church in Lithonia, Georgia, with thousands of followers. Bishop Eddie Long was close to many prominent people in the Atlanta area in the educational, political, and entertainment arenas. Many people visited his church and watched his telecasts for spiritual guidance. To some, his church was a guiding post for those looking for a closer or deeper relationship with the Lord. However, all of that changed on September of 2010 when young men shared similar stories about their relationship with Bishop Eddie Long, who they alleged filled the void left by an absent or abusive father. The 2010 civil lawsuit claimed that Bishop Eddie Long used monetary funds from the accounts of New Birth Baptist Church of Lithonia, Georgia, and other corporate and nonprofit accounts to entice young men with cars, clothes, jewelry, and electronics. Each alleged that Bishop Eddie Long coerced them into sexual relations. Though he agreed to pay for their silence, Bishop Eddie Long continued to deny their allegations. An undisclosed financial settlement, here's another settlement again, reached in 2011 after the fifth accuser, Santino Kemp, came forward, prevents the victims from discussing Bishop Eddie Long or New Birth. Now, in one of his final interviews before his untimely demise, Bishop Eddie Long told comedian Steve Harvey that the settlement prevented him from discussing any aspects of the case brought against him. When Steve Harvey asked, "Did you have sexual relationships with any of the accusers?" Bishop Long stood firm. "I'm bound by court that I cannot make any statements about that." He said that in the 2016 interview on the Steve Harvey Show, which left everybody with questions about the situation. Because we all remember, when the allegations first came out, that following Sunday, Bishop Eddie Long came out with First Lady Vanessa Long by his side. They walked to the pulpit and everybody was jumping up and down. They were happy to hear him and to see them both together. And then he got to the pulpit. And that's when he stated that he was David going against Goliath and he had stones, but he hadn't thrown one stone yet. And the crowd went wild. I remember it like it was yesterday. Everybody in the congregation was jumping up and down because Bishop Eddie Long was going to defend himself. But no, the next thing we saw, Bishop Eddie Long was in a press conference and they were talking about settling the lawsuit. He didn't throw any stones. He didn't defend himself. He settled with the victims, even though he said in the beginning that he was going to fight. If he knew that he didn't do it, why didn't he fight? I'll tell you why. Because he knew that gullible people in the church, some not all, would look over this. Because when it comes to misconduct, inappropriate interactions, or abuse in the church, especially when black boys and young men are involved, no one really wants to deal with it. And it's been that way for decades. Because like I said before, you know how some church folks are. Oh my God. Why them boys didn't fight back? They probably wanted it. Maybe they gay. That's ludicrous. Every young man or young woman that's been inappropriately touched, or essay as we say here on YouTube, by someone of the same sex is not gay or lesbian. And if they were, that still does not justify the abuser's actions. Wake up, y'all. There are victims right now in some of these churches who fear going to the elders of the church to report situations for fear of a cover-up to protect the leader or the church's reputation. But you know how I feel about that. Blow the whistle. To hell with the church leader and the church's reputation. There are a lot of monsters that hide out in religious institutions, both male and female. And if we continue to let these monsters terrorize members of the congregation when we have knowledge of their ungodly behavior and actions, and we choose to do nothing, remain silent, we are just as guilty as those who abuse. Now that's how I feel about it. And now I want to know how you all feel about it. Rev James Cleveland and Bishop Eddie Long, get down in the comments. Let me know what you all think about this video. Until next time, it's your guy Dawson. Thank you all for sharing the video, liking the video. Those who donate, I appreciate it. Who say, Dawson, you bless me, I'm going to bless you back, brother. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for the support. Until next time, it's your guy Dawson. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself and each other. Peace.